All right, today is going to be a bit of a short one. This is day 3 of the JavaScript30 challenge. All right, today is going to be a bit of a short one. This is number 3 in the JavaScript30 challenge. Playing around with cascade variables and JavaScript. So I went ahead and played around with what Westboss gave us. The basics of this are using inputs and JavaScript to update Cascade dynamically. So as you can see right here, we have our little raccoon, but I can adjust the spacing on the border around him using one of these sliders. Adjust the blur and change the color. Of the background. Now, looking over at the HTML, it's all very basic. You're just building it out and adding your inputs. Right over here, we have the data key and this one named sizing, and we're going to be using that over in our JavaScript. So I've gone through and just made ample notes on everything. You have your basic setup, pre-selector, get element by AD, and then this one right here is for something that I added. The immediate one is going to be your handle update because you're wanting these things to take effect as you are going. And for that, we're going to be creating a suffix off of the data set, which would be this data sizing. Now, whenever you call on I'll actually call all of those data variables on your element. So we're going to specifically tack on sizing. And because we're needing that only for a few of them, we don't want an undefined at the end. We tack on an OR operator and an empty string. So that right there is going to be because as we're adjusting this right here, we're actually changing in a pixel value, and our data sizing is pixels. Which, coming down here to our document, element style set property, and then we're creating a variable right here to work with, embedding this dot name, and then this dot value, tacking on the suffix, which would be your pixels. And this is just modifying basically one of these variables right here, taking which one we're calling on, and then our value, and then tacking on our suffix. Unless, of course, we're working on one of the colors, in which case it doesn't need suffix. So we're just calling in the value. Now, down here where it's actually functioning, so for our inputs, we're just working over for each so that we can iterate over all of them and creating a callback function in here of the input add event listener on change, and then calling our handle update up here. And that would be, for instance, right here, when I change the color and press OK, that is on change, calls the handle update, and dynamically changes the properties of our cascade. Now here, because we want to see this actually move so that we can choose where we want it to be, that is where Westboss added the mouse move. Now, if we actually just get rid of this for a second or comment it out, what you'll see is when we We need to rerun this. When we move this, we're not getting any responsiveness to it until we have the change. So right here, no responsiveness, but then the change happens. So what this does is it just works with our on mouse, well, need to rerun that, on our mouse movement. If we look at dev tools, so if we just come up here and add a console log within our handle update function, we can take a look at the dev tools at the console and we can see just what this is actually doing. So with the mouse move, we're getting this value as we're moving across the slider. Now, if we went down here and we just commented out this mouse move again, then we go and rerun this, we can see that we don't get that console log anymore because we're not updating on the mouse movement. The only time the handle update function is actually called is when the new value is set, and you can see that right here. So that's about all that Wes actually did for here. This one was not really something for, this wasn't really something to teach a complicated concept. It's just giving us some information to play around with for our web applications. Now something that I thought this would be useful for is it just creates a light and dark mode for our web page. And that's what this over here is. So we, at the beginning, declared our let is dark mode true. So it starts out in dark mode. I always prefer dark mode. And then inside of our function, we just create an if and else statement. We just use if or else based on whether or not it is dark mode. And then use our document element style set property to change these variables. And we're changing the background color, the text color, and the font color on each of these. And as you can see, all of that's changing across as we work. Now down here, I added some extra stuff to show what else we can do. Right here, we just have a little bit of lorem ipsum inside of a text area. And we can change the fonts. We can also adjust font sizing, and if we want, even update. Well, it would help if I picked something other than white. Update the color. So again, this is an easy one, but these are just some of the examples in which you can play around with using JavaScript to dynamically change our cascade and make our web pages a little bit more responsive, a little bit more customizable for the users. So that's all I've got for this project, but keeping with the usual, I will give you some resources. You might have wondered what I'm using right here. This is Replit. If you do the free code camp, which again, I recommend you do, at some point you will have to use Replit to continue. It lets you create actually usable links for our web pages, at least while it's running. And it also offers a lot of resources in helping you, such as its AI, which, how would I include a light dark mode toggle? And it runs through helping you out inside of this, it'll actually sometimes offer suggestions of what you might want to include. It's right about a quarter of the time when I'm working with it, but it's a nice little tool that you can use as you're learning. All right. Thank you for joining me on this one. Like, comment, subscribe, and keep learning.